don't know what I was thinking just now. Go on.
Amy, I have a quick question.
Yes.
So I submitted an offer and I put an expiration date of today by 6 p.m.,
Uh-huh.
but they can't review offers till after 6 p.m. Am I gonna have to submit a new offer?
No, they don't, you don't have to submit a new offer. They can still review it, and then if they accept it, then you just have to acknowledge it. You just have your buyers then acknowledge the thing, or they could counter you, and then you responding to the counter would be your acknowledgement of extending the offer deadline. Or if the other agent seems stressed about it, you can just do an addendum to the offer that just says, the expiration date to be, or expiration to be tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. or, whatever it is, and then have your buyer sign it, and then just submit the addendum back over to them to extend that deadline.
Okay, thanks.
An amendment addendum or the AEA, because it is technically you're changing terms on the thing.
You're not changing terms because there is no existing agreement. It's an offer. So because there's no existing agreement, you're just changing, you're adding clarification that you're
So if
extending.
it's not an agreement that's been accepted, then you would do an amendment, not because it's not agreed upon yet.
Correct.
Learn something.
Learn something new every day.
But once they accept it, if they change anything, then it's an AEA, right?
And it's an amendment to the existing agreement. Yep.
Okay.
Congrats on submitting your offer. Did she jump off? I don't see her.
Yeah, she left us.
She had one question and ditched us.
She had one question.
Wow. That's your mentee for you. One and done. And Amy had me distracted this morning with her yummy, delicious looking sourdough bread.
I know, she told me and I said, I'm hungry.
Yeah,
I know.
You should smell it. It smells.
I told her to overnight it to me with the raspberries.
Oh yeah, we've been pulling a pound of raspberries out of our garden every morning in about 5 minutes.
Oh, cool.
There's so many raspberries out there.
Raspberry jalapeno jelly sounds so good to go with it.
That does sound so. See, right? So I've been thinking about types of jelly. This nice open forum. I've been thinking about what kind of jelly to make with it. So what I've been doing now is I've been throwing it into food safe bags, a pound at a time, and throwing it in the freezer. And then once it's frozen, I'm gonna food save it. And I was thinking about the different types of jelly I could make with it. So I was thinking, ooh, raspberry strawberry jelly would be really good. But raspberry jalapeno, once the jalapenos come on, that sounds delightful as well. So I'm going to have to do that as well.
You're going to have to try it and then send us some samples and see how it comes out.
They have, one of my favorite jams up here is a huckleberry jalapeno. It's pretty tasty. So I'm sure raspberry would be good.
That sounds good.
I'll bring you some huckleberry jalapeno. Huckleberries are all the things. So in Idaho, there's wild huckleberries. They're kind of like a blueberry, but better. They look like a blueberry, but they taste better than blueberries. And they only grow at higher elevations, and they don't grow well in captivity. So you have to find them in the forest, and it becomes quite the thing. So people stake out their claims in the forest of their huckleberry patches. And, you might get shot if you try to steal some of these huckleberries.
Is
that like in Oregon where they have the Marionberry?
Probably the same idea.
Gotcha. Sorry, Messi.
We did the same when we went to Montana. Like everything was huckleberry, yep. And we're like, what is this huckleberry? And so we had like the huckleberry ice cream and like pie and shakes, and we're like, this is good. And then we went up to Glacier National Park and we saw huckleberry there, and we're like, it's a huckleberry, eat it. And we're like, hell no, we're not having that. What if it's a poison berry and we die? And our friend ate one, and I'm like, I'm not gonna do it. And then they're like, dude, it's fine, it's a huckleberry. And so I ate one, and my husband's like, damn, well, we know if you die, we know what it was.
Yep, the huckleberries, and everything's huckleberry. The other thing that they do up here that I have never seen anywhere else, and I'm sure it's in other places, but it's definitely not in the California areas, everybody has flavored lemonade. Like you go into a restaurant and you can get flavored lemonades. They just have like the syrups that you'd find at a coffee shop. So you can get like raspberry lemonade or huckleberry lemonade, or whatever it is, and it's super easy and super fancy. Like it just dresses up their lemonade a little bit.
I didn't realize they had syrups for that. We went to Nugget and my son, they have like fresh squeezed lemonade. And so I thought they put, it was a strawberry lemonade, and I thought that they like mixed the strawberries in there, the puree, but just kind of use a strainer to get the chunks out. And when I ordered it another time, I saw them pour syrup, and then they're like, here you go, it's done. I'm like, that's it? That's what you used? I thought it was fresh.
Done at home.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. So any of those syrups. So, but we do have like at the casino here in town and at it's called Two Tones Cafe, you can get fresh huckleberry lemonade where they actually put like real huckleberries in the lemonade. I don't like the chunks though, so I much prefer the syrup.
Oh, Sam's Club over here does fresh squeezed orange juice.
Mm-hmm.
The bomb.
Nice. Does it have pulp? 'Cause I don't like floaties.
Oh, it's loaded with pulp. It's so good. Lonnie, feel free to jump in anytime.
I was gonna say, have you guys been to the Huckleberry restaurant here in Fairfield?
No,
I
I
did
think I've seen it.
once.
It's so good.
Where
And they
is
have
it?
Huckleberry everything.
It's by the it's off Waterman over by the right. It's off Waterman over by the
Oliver. Yeah.
Oliver.
Waterman.
Oliver and North Texas. It's right by Rayleigh's.
Okay.
Across the street
Yeah.
from the CFP office.
Oh, that's where it's at. Okay. I feel like I've seen the picture of it, but I have not been there.
Down the street from my brother's office.
Mm.
On the corner.
Yeah.
I was like,
It's
I can
one of my
picture it.
favorite breakfast places, but it's so good there.
I'll have
I'm
to
gonna
try
have
it.
to try it.
Breakfast next week. I'll be in town. We're gonna go get breakfast
So that at the same time, we'll have to try it.
next Thursday.
Oh, we'll have an in-person
Check it.
meeting?
Yeah, we'll
I'm
have an
down.
in-person check-in next Thursday
Oh, sweet. Okay.
at Huckleberry's.
I'm down.
Me too.
Okay. Anyways, does anybody have any forms questions? It's open forum, so you guys can ask anything related. Wait, really, truly, you could ask anything related to real estate. I don't really care. It doesn't have to be forms related, but the goal was like forms. If you have questions about a form, how do you fill something out? What would you use in this instance? How do you use zip forms? How do you set up templates? Like anything. So feel free to ask. Anybody got questions?
I do have one. If we are not using our TC, because I know, like, I've been using the TC, but I noticed that every single time she sends out the forms and the disclosures for my clients to sign, she sends that PG&E one. And that's just like a ROG box one that they decide to send in. So like, if I'm doing one on my own with that one, like I just need to remember to use to get that form and just get it from them and save it, or
so you could actually get a blank copy of it, and then you can come in here. So if you have your template set up, hold on, you guys are there. We go. If you go into your templates, hold on. So let's go into my regular purchase template, and I had that blank form. You could come in here and hit add document right here in the upper left-hand corner. And you could browse for them onto your computer. I'm just gonna wait for my computer to catch up. There we go. And then we're just gonna pick any sort of PDF. And we would call it PG ROG box PG and hit OK. And now it'll actually add that to your folder so that it pops up in your transaction anytime you create that purchase transaction, or you can do it anytime you create a listing transaction, kind of whenever you do it. Or you can also go. So that's how you would do it to your templates. Oops, cancel. Let's go into, hold on, dashboard. Let me get out of templates.
Man, I only have 2 templates on mine. You have 2, 4, 6, 7. I need to
Don't,
do all those.
yeah, you do. Don't let it fool you though. They don't actually have templates. I just, one time when we were training on templates, I created a whole bunch so that people could see that you could have them for different purposes.
Man,
right.
there's been a helicopter flying around since I woke up this morning.
They're after you.
And I don't know if it's like over on North, like right by North Bay, if they're like just hovering over North Bay or what, but it's been hovering out there for like at least 45 minutes.
Oh, see, maybe they're life flighting somebody. All right. So if you're inside your transaction and you're in documents, you can hit add a document and it'll give you the same option to upload it from here. So you could just add it on a transactional basis there. Obviously it'd be better to put it inside your templates if you're using templates, because then it'll automatically throw it in there. But if you've got transactions already in process and you need it, just email Melina and ask her for that document. She'll send you over a blank one, hit add document. Again, you can browse and then you can upload it there. The other option, I think there's a way over here in documents where you can add kind of your own folder. So this is like the California Association of Realtors library. And there's a whole bunch of different libraries in here that you can add. Somewhere there's in case you need like the car EPUBs, this is where like the homeowner's guide and all of those that come with your NHD report, all of those are in here. All the pamphlets that you need, the seller's guide to write, the property transaction booklet, green living brochure, the earthquake safety for the water conservation flyer. So all that stuff's in here, along with all of those, the normal ones here. So in case you've never messed with this, there's a bunch of different things in here.
How'd you get to that again?
I just hit documents and then went to here at the top, your forms library, just the drop down. That one's the EPUBs library. So normally you're in the California Association of Realtors library. But there's also like, I don't know what this car sample letters, look at abandoned personal property for residential, access to premises, right? So if you need a letter, though, those are in here, acting against broker advice, buyer, let's look at that one. The AABAB. It's the spinning circle of death. There we go.
I'm surprised you actually have internet out there, since you say you live in the middle of nowhere.
We have Starlink, thank you.
So every time you see those on top of their
every time you see those satellites go overhead in a line, that's us. Thank you. Right. So this is, hey, we're making, so if you wanted to ultimately really protect yourself, right? And somebody was making a non-contingent offer, they were removing all their contingencies with the offer, you could come in here and include this letter, right? That talks about, here's the buyer's name, the property's located, you put the address, the residential purchase agreement, the date of that. And then the seller and buyer would probably auto-populate. And then the buyer's name would populate here. And then you're saying real property sales are often complicated transactions which require a buyer to make many decisions. Some of these decisions invoke risk that have legal, financial, contractual, and other consequences, while real estate broker can be of assistance in alerting a client to many risky actions. Only you can decide what to do. Only you can prevent forest fires. All right, sorry. It has come to our attention that you intend to take the following actions. Make a completely or partially non-contingent offer. Form market conditions advisory is attached. Remove a contingency before the time required by the contract. Fail to make property investigations, the buyer's inspection waiver, right? Close escrow without receiving reports and disclosures. Make multiple offers on more than one property. This is a good one if you're making multiple offers. Make multiple offers on more than one property, even though you intend to buy only one. Form market conditions advisory attached. Make an offer with an escalation clause or other. So, right, so you could use this form There's inherent risk in the above described action. Only you can describe how much risk you are willing to take. It is your decision alone and cannot be made by your broker or real estate agent. The action you are taking may have legal, financial, contractual, or other consequences. Accordingly, you are advised to consult a competent professional before or concerning your decision. Regardless of the advice received, if any, by such professional, you should take the above described action. You are acting against the broker's advice. Please let me know your decision and how you wish to proceed. And then the buyer's agent would sign, you would sign, and then the buyer would sign. Oh, no, just the buyer's agent and the name of the broker. And then you give that to your buyer so that they understand fully and completely that their actions that may have implications. So there's letters in there. If you're
So
inside
there's-
that, what?
Is there a multiple buyer offer? So like people know that so they don't get like all butthurt that you're sending in multiple offers to other people, or you would just, I think you've said this before, you basically like, if there's 3 properties that you're interested in, you each send an offer to each one of them and you find out from one before the other, you can just, I guess, then.
Yeah, you
If
could withdraw the offer.
Yeah, withdraw it.
Yep. So, so yeah, so you could withdraw that offer, you could do it verbally and then you would back it up with a withdrawal of offer form. So yeah, so right, there's risks to submitting multiple offers. It is allowed. There's nothing that prevents you from submitting multiple offers. We actually submitted multiple offers when we made an offer on our vacant lot up here because there was 2 vacant lots that we were interested in. Well, technically there were 3 that were available and we wanted to make sure we got 1, but they were all going to the same seller. So we actually put a clause inside the offer stating that our primary choice was this one, but if that one, if they didn't accept our offer on that one, then this is our backup offer type thing. But it was all going to the same seller. So, right. So the market conditions advisory, outlines that you can submit multiple offers on multiple properties at the same time, but there's risk involved because ultimately in our purchase agreement, it states that the buyer is going to exercise good faith in completing the transaction, right? We submitted an offer and in good faith, we're going to complete this transaction. And oftentimes we say, well, if we submit multiple offers and they were all accepted at the same time, or, both offers were accepted or all 3 offers were accepted, we could cancel based on the investigation contingency. And we could cite that the neighbor's dog barked too much or that the sky was too blue or that the tree hung over the house or, whatever it is. But then the question comes up, is that truly in good faith? Like, are you exercising a good faith for something that you could have known about before submitting that offer? And could the seller technically go after you for not completing the offer in good faith? And they could, so they could tie you up in a lawsuit. For the most part, you're going to be able to cancel, but there's always that question or that if, that it could happen that the seller decides to go after your buyer, that they did not exercise good faith in completing the transaction if their offer got accepted and they had no intention of actually moving forward with that house. So there's always risk involved with that.
So
But
one at
like
a
you
time.
said, you could
sweet
have just,
Jesus.
go ahead,
Oh.
Anastasia.
One at a time, sweet Jesus. One at a time.
Are you saying that in regards to the
Oh,
offer?
no, she didn't say anything.
Yeah. Because with our luck, all of them would get accepted, and then we'd be like, shit.
Language, Anastasia, language.
Shoot. Shoot.
Well, like you said, even if you change your mind, your clients change your mind, you can just say, well, I feel like it smelled like cat urine in front of the house, so we don't want to purchase anymore.
Yeah. I mean, there's lots of reasons you could, and you always run that risk. So it outlines that in the market conditions advisories where you find the verbiage that talks about that to your client, where it outlines that risk. So that's where you would find it. These are fascinating, these sample letters. So if there was, you move into a property And the seller has left personal items or trash behind, then, you know, in the new purchase agreement that came out when it came out, I think this update happened maybe a year and a half ago when it came out. It may have been a year ago, like last December, that update, I don't remember, but it updated the purchase agreement that if the seller leaves personal belongings or debris behind when the buyer takes possession, that there's now a process for handling that, which we appreciate because there was no process before. So you were like, what do we do? How do we deal with this? We don't want to get in trouble. But now there's a process. So we have to notify the seller of the items left behind and let them know that in 3 days, they'll consider them abandoned. And then your buyers can remove those items from the property. And if there's cost involved in getting those items removed, or the buyers could keep them, I mean, whatever. If there is cost associated with that, then the buyer could then proceed forward with like a small claims action to get their money back on that. So there's actually like a set process now in the residential purchase agreement, but here's the sample letter for the seller to remove debris, right? So it's buyer address, phone, email to the seller, property located at street address, right? Residential purchase agreement dated blank between seller and buyer. But delivered to the address specified below, seller's agent, right? So you're going to check who we're delivering this letter to. And it's just saying that, hey, the agreement requires that you remove all debris and personal properties not included in the sale by close of escrow or date of possession if it was different. You have left the following items not included in the sale of the property, and you would outline what's left behind. The agreement provides that any item left shall be deemed abandoned, and I could keep all or some of them. However, my preference is that you remove them as agreed, consistent with the terms in paragraph 7B1. I'm giving you notice to remove these items. Before I pay for the removal or disposal of them, you are contractually responsible for all reasonable costs that I may incur to do so. Please contact me to make arrangements to remove the items no later than at least 3 days from the date of this letter. So if we delivered it today, we'd go 1, 2, 3. Oops, that should have been the 9th. If you do not do so, I intend to pursue you for the costs I incur, right? And buyer signs that. And then you would state, the seller at property address or other address, seller's agent, escrow holder, so wherever it's being delivered. And now you have proof that you actually served them notice that their possessions are going to be removed and the implications of them not removing them. There's a letter for that. Here's the seller's agent's response, the buyer's notice to remove personal property. So the seller's agent can respond. Right. So this is like, hey, the seller doesn't know where the seller's agent doesn't know where the seller went. They could mark it. I'll forward this letter to the seller, right? So it's all in there. So anyways, fun stuff inside that library. That you didn't know existed. There's also a San Francisco, because they have some funky disclosures and documents in San Francisco. So for the San Francisco MLS, they actually have their own library in here where you can track down those forms. The other one that you may want to upload to your file, right, is like if you normally do business in Solano County, you may want to upload like the Solano County disclosures and disclaimers advisory into your file so that would show up here as well, so that you can always have your buyer sign off on that. Is that helpful? Fun? Did you know that existed?
So do each company has their own company specific forms? I've noticed EXP has theirs, KW has theirs, Realty One. Is that normal?
Yeah, that's normal. I mean, you just said all companies have them, so obviously it's normal. Some do and some don't. I would say it's probably maybe that was good. Thank you. The bigger companies probably have their own disclosures versus like usually the smaller boutique ones often don't. And it's just like, hey, there wasn't clarification enough. We really want to make sure buyers are aware of this. So we're adding our own document. So they usually put it with their own header and stuff. And there's no requirement that like, if we have another transaction with another company, let's say Coldwell Banker, and Coldwell Banker sends us their 7 pages of Coldwell Banker disclosures, Those are all just addendums and like advisories, basically. There is no requirement on our side that we have our buyers sign those, or our sellers. Like, we have no requirement to sign those California Association of Realtor forms. So you can not, or you could just be helpful and be like, yeah, sign it so that you've been made aware. Same thing with like, so anything that's an advisory. So if we look back in this, like we have our market conditions advisory. And if we look at that form, right, it's an advisory. It's not an amendment to the contract. It's not part of the agreement. It's just an advisory. And at the advisory, it has lines for all of the people to sign. If I had my buyer sign this as part of my offer and submitted it over to the seller with my purchase agreement, there is no requirement that the seller actually sign this form. It's just an advisory. So legally, the seller does not have to sign this form. It does not make the contract valid or invalid. Does that make sense to everybody? And same thing with the buyer and seller, the statewide buyer and seller advisory, the SBSA. It's an advisory, so there's no requirement that the other party sign it. Thoughts, questions? I've brought everybody to silence. Raquel, when you're submitting an offer and your clients want a credit for repairs after seeing the home at an open house and the listing agent wants me to put the dollar amount before we even do inspections, what dollar amount would you put if you don't have the cost in hands? I would probably, so Raquel, if I had clients going into an offer and they absolutely were going to want a credit for some repairs and I was trying to get my offer accepted, I would absolutely put a dollar amount in there. So on the California residential purchase agreement, obviously there's a line for that. And you would just estimate, it would become a question that what you have a couple of options at that point. You can, buyers, would you like to have somebody come out and give you a quote before we even make an offer on it? However, the delay of your offer may cause somebody else to swoop in and get the house from you, versus we can include it with our offer. And anytime that your buyer wants, sees a property and there's things that are obvious and the buyers want those repaired or want a credit for those, or they're going to offer less on the property to account for those credits, we want to do that up front, because here's what's going to happen, right? We write an offer on a property, the offer gets accepted, the buyers wanted a $5,000 credit for the flooring, which was obvious at time that they saw the property. Now we've had our inspection contingency, and now we're going to write that repair request and ask for that credit of $5,000 for the carpets. If the seller denies that request, because we're already in contract, they've already agreed on a price, and the seller has the right to deny that request. If the seller denies that request at that point, is that going to cause your buyers to walk away? And if it's something that's going to cause your buyers to walk away, we should have asked for it up front, as long as it wasn't something that was uncovered as part of the inspections, but something that you can see up front. So you should always ask for it. And then that comes with, hey, do you want to get an actual estimate for the repair of that carpet? Or do you want to just, what dollar amount would satisfy you that you think would be enough to help you move forward with the offer and getting those carpets replaced, right? So then you're going to come in here and write that. And so there's the line somewhere down here. I feel like it's up higher than this, but maybe not. Private transfer fee, it is. All right, loan amount, occupancy, there's the seller credit, should be right at the top. Oh, it's just gonna be seller credit to buyer. I was for some reason looking for repairs, which would be stupid. So, right, so we would just write that in here. So it really comes down to what would be comfortable for your buyers. Now, maybe I negotiated a $5,000 repair request for the carpets of the property as a seller credit to buyer. And we get in the contract and the buyers actually have a couple carpet companies come out and give them quotes. And they're like, oh my gosh, we thought it was going to be like $5,000 or $6,000 to replace that room's worth of carpet. But they're saying that like the subfloor is rotten and it needs new padding and it's going to be closer to like 10 grand. Like you could come back and ask for an increased credit. Just know that it may not happen. So we could go in with an estimate of where we thought, and I would probably estimate a little on the high side when I wrote the offer. with the intention that they might counter us a little lower, or there's some wiggle room there, or we're asking for a little bit more than we think it's going to take so that we're covered in the long run. But yeah, I would absolutely, just estimate, and really it comes down to not me estimating, it comes down to my buyers. And you know, I know you were unhappy with the carpets when we walked through the property, or I know you thought like, gosh, the kitchen cabinets are missing 3 or 4 drawers, and you're going to have to replace those cabinets when you move in because you can't just buy drawers. Like, what dollar amount would satisfy you as a credit towards your closing costs so that it frees up that money? What would that number be? And ask your buyers. And if they're like, man, I don't even know, then it might be, well, you know, let's contact somebody like a contractor or somebody, and you should have numbers for those types of people in your vendor list, to come out and give us a quote. And let's see if maybe they can come out later today and we can schedule another showing of the property to try to wrap up and get a solid estimate. And that the contractor wouldn't have to be like, well, I've got to go look at cabinet costs. And like, a good contractor would come in and be like, oh, it's a kitchen. Like, there's 3 banks of cabinets. It comes out with a peninsula. If you replace the cabinets, you're going to also replace the countertops. You're probably looking at 15 grand, right? They're going to be able to just throw out like a round estimate up there for you to be able to do that. So you can do one of 2 ways. You can just guesstimate, or you can put a number in there. She responded with there was termite damage that clients absolutely didn't want to pay for. I was afraid of undershooting the cost, but I got it. Estimate can always ask for increase or have someone do a quick quote. Yeah. So, right. You can always ask for more after you negotiate that offer, but you hate to write the offer without the credit and then try to come back and get it after you've spent money on inspections and reports and potentially even an appraisal, and then have them cancel the offer and spent money on something that was unnecessary. So yes. Same thing too with like, if you've got a VA client, right? So I used to do this with multiple, when we were in the multiple offer situation, and oftentimes before the lenders all went to the Form 33, that we would negotiate up front on those lender required repairs. Like, hey, we know we're a VA deal and we want to be competitive with the other deals that you have coming in, because there's going to be 8 or 20 offers or 28 offers coming in. So, hey, we are asking that the seller pay cost not to exceed up to $5,000 of lender required repairs, or buyers willing to pay up to $5,000 in lender required repairs, right? So that way we're addressing it up front, which makes our offer have less unknowns and more solid evidence as far as moving forward. So the sellers know what to expect. And we're pre-negotiating some of those things so that we don't have to worry about it falling out in the middle of the contract. What other questions do y'all have? Good question, Raquel. Thank you.
Dang it, now I'm gonna have to go over it because I had to step out and I missed the majority of that.
That was the good part too. You're
Oh man, what was the question? You don't have to tell me the rest. I can watch the video, but what was the question?
Is in the chat box actually, but it was if you're submitting an offer and your clients want credit for repairs, what would you put in for the dollar amount for those repairs if you don't have an estimate, or how would you handle that?
Gotcha.
Yeah. Alrighty. So so we talked about templates, right? That you can upload forms into your templates, or you can upload them directly here, or you can upload them when I was in that editing screen a minute ago. You can add forms there. So like the Solano County regional disclosures, or your whatever the other form was. I don't remember what it was. Oh, the Rog Fox PG&E form. And just so you know too, if you upload a let's add a doc here, because I'll show you. We're going to browse for a document. I'm going to pick a form. This one looks good. I did okay. When you're in this screen here, I used to not do it until we went to like the e-signatures portion, but then I learned that, oh, hold on. I learned that it usually lets you edit it. Oh, here, yeah. So here I'm in this form. So let's say that it had like a line for the seller's name or the address or whatever. When you open it inside of your zip forms, you can go to markup, which then allows you to add text. So you can add like the name, right, seller's name, or pre-fill out those forms before you get into the e-signatures line, which makes it so that those items can't be edited, or you don't have to assign them to somebody or anything like that. So you can add stuff in there on those forms when you're inside. And the way I got into there was just, you know, I've uploaded that PDF into my list of documents in the transaction, and you just click on it and it opens up that PDF so that then you can go into markup and you can edit that form. You can't add signatures that way, but it's a way to get that form filled out, because a lot of them have questions or need names or, you know, whatever it might be, or property addresses. You can add it here.
What is that? What's that? You just did a copy of the listing agreement and put it on there?
I just picked a PDF from my downloaded files and threw it in there as an
Okay.
example of how to upload a document.
Gotcha.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So if you were to go, let me move all of our pictures off the top, but if you were to go to eSign, you know how there's like DocuSign, AuthentiSign, and another one.
Yep.
But once it loads, let's see. I try to use the new form editor also when I'm picking a pamphlet. Yeah, well, this is two questions, sorry. Let me go back to the AuthentiSign and the other one. On DocuSign, I swear I used to use that one before and something may have changed, but now it says like you have used up so many something, and now it doesn't allow me to put signature blocks on there. So I use the AuthentiSign, but sometimes, and I don't know if it's the AuthentiSign or there's the third one, and I'm not sure which one I'm using, but when I try to do like an X mark on like a check mark on a form, like I don't remember. I used to see it on one form, on one signing thing and not the other. And now I don't remember which one it's at, but I noticed one of them has like an X mark that's already like you could just exit on your document, and then the other one you actually have to do like a text box and then shrink it and put an X. Is that right? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, so here, let's go into it. We're going to go into the forms editor. So DocuSign, when you may have been with your previous company, you may have had DocuSign as one of the benefits there, which is why you could go in there and do signatures, and now it's saying that you're out of credits. That you don't have those rights and that access any longer without paying for it. DocuSign runs, I haven't looked recently, but it was about $240 a year, which I used to pay for willingly for years, because it was fabulous. And then you have AuthentiSign, which is the new signing one. And then you have, is it ZipLogic? I don't remember what it is, but the third one. And the third option on Zip Forms, you have two free options. One is AuthentiSign and one is the other one. And the other one is not very user-friendly. It doesn't have as many options.
ZipLogic Digital Ink.
Digital ink, that's what it is. I was like, I feel like it starts with a D, but I can't come up with it. Digital ink. So digital ink, I don't feel like is quite as intuitive as AuthentiSign or DocuSign. I feel like AuthentiSign now is pretty close to DocuSign as far as that goes. So let's throw this one into a signing folder. So here's your choices: digital ink, AuthentiSign, or DocuSign. Again, DocuSign, you have to have an account with them in order to use that, but these are the free ones here. I usually use AuthentiSign now because I'm cheap and I don't want to pay for things. And
it's actually easier.
It's as easy or easier than DocuSign. So it's a great option. The only thing I don't like about AuthentiSign, which I'll show you here in a minute, is when you got to go in there and edit or cancel a package, it's really confusing that way. You can also charge a return folder, so it's going to go in the main folder, or you don't have to choose anything there. So you can just ignore that question. People always get there. And then I usually, if I'm doing multiple documents, anytime I send something for signatures, I do usually name the signature packet with like seller disclosures, right? Or or offer, like a sample, way offer, so that I know when it throws it back in my folder, what signature packet that was, because then I can access those signed documents. So we're going to hit create. It's going to open that up in the AuthentiSign window. On DocuSign, when you go in there and you add a checkbox to answer your question, Maciel, there's some options on the side that you have to select in order to get that checkbox to check. And so if you're trying to like check the box for like a seller counter offer, you would want to, with DocuSign, you have to go in there, you go into tools, you select the checkbox feature. See, this one doesn't have.
Yeah, because I swore I've seen it before, and I'm like, I know I've used it before, and then another time it was like, wait, where'd it go? I'm like, and I had to do my own text box, and so I don't know, I was like, am I seeing things again? And I wasn't sure. And then there's other times, sometimes where it automatically does the signature blocks. On your file, like wherever it sees that there's a signature block for your clients.
Yep.
And then other times it doesn't, and I'm like manually having to put all the signature blocks, and I'm like, what am I missing? What am I not
All right.
realizing?
So on DocuSign, there's a box, there's a checkbox option, you put the little checkbox on there, and then you can go down and you can check it, and then you can mark it as required or not. You can mark it so it's not added. You can either mark it for required or that it's a read-only box when you're using DocuSign. But in AuthentiSign, there's not a checkbox. You've got an ellipse, which is like a circle. You can add a text box. You can highlight something. You've got auto dates, time, signatures, initials, right? So if I wanted to check a box, I would probably do what you recommended, which is, hey, I would add a checkbox and put a capital X in there and then move the X over that box and call it a day. That's usually what I do for the checkboxes now. If I, like right now, see, it didn't automatically assign those. So number one, you've got to pull the document from your zip forms file into AuthentiSign. And as long as it's one of the regular forms, it will generally apply the signature blocks. Different than if you upload a form. If you upload a form, it does not recognize what that form is, and it's not going to assign those blocks. So like if I upload a purchase agreement or a counter offer because I made an offer and then they countered us, I'm going to have to assign those signature blocks to the counter offer versus like this form, which I pulled over from zip form. So if I come in here to signers and I go add participants and we're going to add new, you could add from transaction. Like you should always have your clients in your zip file as a participant, as a party. With their email address, and then it makes it a little easier. So you would hit add from transaction, and then it would say, well, who's in the transaction? And then what type is it? And I'm already listed as the selling agent, right? So I could select that. So whoever's in my transaction, it's going to add those people. And then it's going to say, hey, do you want to assign signature blocks? And right now we just have buyers, and I haven't selected a buyer yet. So now let's add a participant, add new buyer 1, and then we're going to put buyer's email here, buyer1@gmail.com. And then you want to select a role. So when we're in AuthentiSign and you're messing with it, you want to go in and say, hey, that's buyer 1. And then you're going to save that. And see, now it automatically assigns that block. But if it didn't, and I had my buyers in here and they were assigned appropriately, you can hit map signers. And then you could say, well, who do you want to be buyer 1? Well, I really want this one to be buyer 1, and I want this one to be buyer 2. And then we could hit assign. So that's that map signature blocks. And then it'll add them to those documents that you pulled over directly from zip forms. Does that make sense?
Yep. I've done that too. I was just curious. And then I guess there's sometimes, like you said, when you upload a form, you know, if they've already signed something and they forgot to sign another area, like their initials, then we have to manually do that part, right? Because then if you pull it from the thing, then it's going to add the signature blocks on top of the old signature blocks.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, that was one thing. The other thing on, unless somebody has a question about this before I switch over to my other question. Yes, no, maybe so. The other question is when I do pull up, say I'm editing an offer and I'm using the new form editor instead of the old one, I
Uh-huh.
still have issues with where it says close of escrow date. You can click on 30 days or you can click on another, you can click on it and then add whatever days that you want to close escrow. It does not let me do a checkbox there. And so I'm finding that I'm always having to use the old editor instead of the new one.
That's rude.
And I remember you said that it did that to you one time, but like
Yeah.
it always does it to me.
Well,
And I've only noticed in that section because it's like one of the first sections. So I don't know if it doesn't allow me to do other parts. And so I just always do my offers on the old version. And then if I ever wanted to edit anything else, it will let me edit with the new version. But it won't like let me initially do it, which is really strange. So if you can pull that up and see if it works on yours, because I don't know why
it probably won't work on mine. I haven't, it's been a while since I've pulled up an offer in here with the need to be able to do that. So it definitely was a glitch. And I would have assumed that somebody would have complained and they would have fixed it by now. But maybe we all need to go in there and complain later today so they'll get it fixed. Hold on, my mouse is not on the right screen and I'm in pause mode. It got angry at me because I was talking bad about it. So it's frozen.
So what if so you have everybody's names in there? Let's say your name changes or somebody that somebody's name changes and you need to go in and here and change it. How do you do that? Like the people that are permanently in there, like you and your title person, or you need to change your title person. If they have a name change, how do you do that?
Okay, I'll show you here in a second.
Okay.
Maciel, and it's letting me edit both. The close of escrow, I can put a date or a days.
Yeah, see, and every single time I use the new form, it never lets me do a little check mark and it never lets me edit the dates. So I don't know what's going on or like how to, like, on your phone, you can close out your app and you can restart it. Like, how do I even restart this? How do I even do that? Like, I don't know why. It's just really frustrating that it does that all the time.
I agree.
And it's only there.
I agree that would be frustrating. You may need to go to like the need help button and you may actually have to like see if there's like a contact them and call them and ask them. I don't know why you can come in here.
This is nice because it's so much like bigger. The writing is bolder and bigger. So it's like nice to use this form versus the other one. But it's like, okay, I have to do that part. And then sometimes I'll exit out and then if I have to, continue it, then I'll pull up the new one after I've already hit the close of escrow thing.
Yeah. You can come in here and do feedback and do I hate this and can I contact you? Yes. And then please call me. It won't let me fill in the close of escrow dates. And then they'll call you and hopefully they can walk you through what you need to do in order to make it function again for you. It could be like an update of something that's not happening on your computer for some reason.
Oh.
When you open it, what browser do you open your zip forms in?
Google.
Google? Okay, so it should work, but it could be like a Google Chrome update that needs to happen too. It could be that far back, or it could be a form. So I would do feedback and then tell them you hate it and tell them to contact you and put your phone number in there and say that it's not letting you fill in close escrow dates.
Okay.
And get them to call you that way. All right. Oops, I just hit save. That's right. Oh, gosh. That was stupid. It's all right, though. Hold on. I just closed out of zip forms completely. All right. So Anastasia, your question was, hey, it's got, how do I update my information? So there's a couple different ways to do that. Hold on. I've got to get signed back in again.
Sorry, hubby was talking to me.
That's all right. I was busy logging out of things that shouldn't have been logged out of, so now I'm
What
busy
is that
reading.
a view of? Is that a view of the current house? from your-
That's the other house. That's the view from our rental,
That's
Man,
nice.
that's pretty.
You
right?
you should send me that.
What
I
kind
like-
of grass is that? Like the down below.
Oh, there, that was wheat. They were growing wheat last year.
Oh, okay, so it was nice and green right before it changed color.
Yeah,
I
it
was
was.
wondering how
green for a
nice
while.
it stayed green throughout the year.
Now they, now this year they're growing canola in that field, so it's like fluorescent yellow.
Canola, like from like canola oil? Is that what
Yeah,
it
like
is?
canola oil, canola. That looks like wild mustard, you know, like the yellow wild
Oh.
mustard, except brighter. And they wait until it flowers and then it dries out and gets seed pods, and they're actually harvesting the canola seeds. Is how they press those to make the canola oil.
Oh,
All right.
Raquel has a question.
Yeah, I'm getting to Anastasia's and Raquel's. The question is, when the listing agent pushed back against your client's lender, like Navy Federal Credit Union, would you say the best way, what would you say is the best way to advise your clients to get pre-approved with a new lender, or is there another angle? Usually the pushback on a lender has to do with a bad experience, and it depends what the listing agent's asking you to do. But mainly, right, like having somebody that you can contact. So oftentimes when you have pushback against a lender, it's usually against the big banks. And it's because they've had a bad experience in the past, or they can't get somebody. So oftentimes when you call those big banks, you get put into like a phone queue, and you open some, you get a hold of somebody that doesn't know what's going on with the file, and there's just more files die at big banks than anywhere else, and that's usually why. So one way to get around that is, like, if you've got like Navy Federal or Veterans United, having a contact person at that bank that can answer questions about your buyer's files, that's going to be your primary winning moment there. If you can be like, yeah, I know I've also had bad experiences with them in the past, but now I've got this really great loan officer over there that actually answers his phone calls, and they actually reviewed all the documents. Because that's the other thing, is sometimes with those big banks, they don't actually review your buyer's documents. So when you go to submit an offer, it's really a pre-qualification rather than a pre-approval. They've just gone off whatever the buyer said. Oh, I make $5,000 a month and I have $30,000 in the bank, but they haven't actually pulled credit. They haven't reviewed those documents. So one way is to have a conversation with the listing agent and say, yeah, you know, I've got a contact over there. Here's his direct number. I know that they've reviewed their documents. They've pulled credit. That's usually the best option. If you're still getting pushback, then yeah, you might advise your clients just to get pre-approved with a second option of a local lender, so that you can submit both pre-qualification letters with your offer, and your buyers are not obligated to either lender. They have the right to switch lenders at any time during that transaction, as long as it doesn't cost the seller any money and as long as it doesn't delay the transaction. So there's nothing that says that just because we're pre-approved with Brick House doesn't mean we still can't use Navy Federal. You absolutely can. So, so that might be a second option if you're still getting some pushback or they're seeming unsure. There's nothing wrong with second opinions.
Tell him to shove it. No, just kidding.
I'll just shove it. All right.
No, seriously,
Yeah.
I dealt with that too. He was like,
Yeah.
well, I like to use this lender instead. And I'm like, okay.
Yep. And sometimes, like back in the day, when we had all those foreclosures hit the market and short sales and stuff, oftentimes the banks would actually require that you got pre-approved with their lender, so that they knew that, hey, the offer that we're accepting is going to can actually close, has a higher potential to close. And then that kind of died out for a while, and then you're starting to see it here and there. You have certain agents. I would like to make the assumption that they're probably the older agents that have been around since that time that knew you could do that, that require, must get pre-approved with, you know, this lender. New home builders do it all the time, when we don't question them, right? Like, in order to make an offer on a new home, you have to get pre-approved with their lender, whether you use their lender or not. They want to know this deal has the potential to close if they're going to put somebody in contract on a property for 9 months. So, so it's not unheard of. And, you know, people get scared about those big mega banks, and especially if they can't get a hold of somebody that knows anything about the clients. So that's where usually it comes with, like, we're unsure and we can't get answers, and that's where that comes into play. Anastasia, to answer your question, like if I go in here to like my information, right, it pops up a whole list of people. You can
Wait, what? All I see is your background.
oh, because I'm in the wrong screen. Hold on. Because I opened it in my second window and then didn't move it down. All right.
So cute.
So, so when you're in the editing screen, right? So I'm in like the new forms editor. Well, I'm just waiting for my screen to catch up with me. My name was here and there's like a drop down. You can now like X out of those and take those out, which is kind of handy. Look at, you didn't have that option before, so I don't know if it's like a new forms editor, but you can actually get rid of those. So if you're like, I don't need Bob Knapp or Coldwell Banker or Dave or right, and you can like delete those. And then the second that I type somebody new in here, like if I go Amy the winner, now next time I come in here, okay, we're gonna hit back. Hold on. Save changes. So there's the auto population portion of it. Hold on. It is slower when I'm sharing my screen. My internet's usually much faster. But you take what you can get. So usually, right? So the other option, so now if I reopen that, it's going to auto populate. So that's the best and easiest way to edit those that auto populate. Now, if you're like, man, when I put in my information, every time I pull up my forms, my license number is wrong. Well, that's probably because you put it in wrong in your templates. If you have templates set up.
Yeah,
So you
how do you change it in the templates?
Okay, hold on just a second. We're just gonna test my theory here.
Wah, wah.
All right.
Amy the winner. Look at that.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to delete it to see if it re-auto populates, but it's still thinking. Oh, there we go. All right. So now, see, now it's in my drop down, and if I wanted it to go away, I can just X out. I really like that you can now X those out and they go away. That's super handy. So anyways, you can spend some time cleaning up, because anytime you put anybody's name in here at any time, it auto populates that information. All right. So if you spelled your buyer's name wrong, then that's an easy fix, because then we just go back into the main field. Hold on. So if we were here inside of my transaction, and every time I pull up forms, I realize that I misspelled my buyer's name or typed their email address in incorrectly, then we would just go back over here into contacts. So, oh, hold on. Come on, you can do it. There we go. Into parties. Still waiting for the spinning wheel of death. And then you would edit it in the parties of the transaction, which would then update all the forms for you and then make it correct and moving forward. So I do this a lot. I put my buyer's email address in there incorrectly. And then every time I go to send the e-signature packet, I have to fix their email address. And if I would just come back here and fix it, then it would fix it moving forward. But I usually forget, like I'm usually irritated when I go to send the signature packet. I go, oh, their email's in wrong again. And so I go in there and fix it. And then I hit send. And by the time I hit send, I've forgotten that I fixed their email. So then I don't fix it. And then I go to send the next thing and it's still wrong. But if we just click on this one, then we can come back and change the full name back to Amy Tard. And then that's what's going to populate on all the forms moving forward. We just hit save. So that's how to fix it inside the transaction. Now, if you're like, man, I put in my license number incorrectly, or I didn't realize it when I typed my name in on my template and I added an extra M in there, we would just come up here to templates, hit forms and checklists. here is your templates. You would just open up the one that has it incorrectly or all of them. If they were all incorrect, you do them each one at a time. And then this allows you to edit that template. So I'm currently modifying the purchase template. Click here if you want to create a new purchase transaction. This one obviously doesn't have any documents, so this is not the one that I've been using. Let's go back to list. I feel like that's the one that I was using.
Now, when you have templates set up like this, where they did the change to the, was it the residential purchase agreement has a change? Was that one of the
When-
ones that they updated?
You know, I thought it was, but it's not showing up even when I added it into the new folder. So let's look. Usually it automatically updates your templates for you. I've never had to
That's
go in
what I
and
was just-
update.
So the SBSA shows that it's updated 6/23. But the
Yeah.
RPA is still showing 12/22.
The new, the changes, if there were any made to the RPA, which I thought there were some, may just not have happened yet. Forms library, let's look at the RPA. Oops, I'm still in the wrong library. I don't know if this is. It looks like they just haven't updated it yet. So it's still the 12/22. That is the most recent. So it should automatically update your templates. It won't automatically update your files that you have working, but it will automatically update your templates.
Okay.
And this is how you would edit that, right? So I'm inside the template. I would come in here, I would fix it with whatever you wanted to change it to. Like this is not. Who knows what the license number is for the Realty One group? I think it's this one.
Is 02001870.
'Say that again.
02001870.
There. So see, I updated the template, then we hit save, and now my template's been updated. So anytime it pulls that back in, it'll re-update it.
Okay.
So that's how you update the templates. That's how you update the autofill options, or how you update them inside of a transaction.
Cool. Just
Fabulous. All right. Any other questions before we wrap up for today?
Nope. And you'll send us information for next week?
Will I send you
for breakfast?
information? For what? Oh, breakfast?
Yeah,
Thursday.
there's, well, what time?
7:30. 8 a.m.
Perfect. 8 a.m.
Okay.
Perfect.
All right, make sure you log your attendance. It's in the chat box. Thank you, Abby, for putting that in there. Make sure you make any suggestions for trainings you'd like to see in the future. Next week, there is training at 3 o'clock on Tuesday.
Isn't that
Hold
when
on.
you're gonna be out here?
Well, I'll be in transit. So I looked, you know, what's funny was I looked at my calendar yesterday and thought, oh, that won't be a problem because my flight doesn't leave until 7. But then I realized that my flight actually leaves much sooner. So next Tuesday's training may get moved to Wednesday and may get changed because I originally had no training on Wednesday due to the office huddle, but there's no office huddle in July. So we may do, stay tuned because the next week's calendar is going to change.
Yes,
Next
ma'am.
week's calendar will change. And then car forms on Thursday will stay the same at 9, which is why I was saying we should have breakfast sooner than that, because it's the FVAC and something else, which I can't see. Let's see. The DID and the FVAC. So if you don't know what a DID is, you should probably be on the training next Monday or next Thursday at 9 a.m. See you next week.
Huckleberry
Bye.
breakfast. Bye.
Huckleberry breakfast.
Thank you.
See you all next week.
Bye.
Bye.